evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here tonight, and thank you for introducing yourselves. Please continue to do that if you want to. It's been good to see where everyone's from, and a lot of people have introduced their children that are in heaven. And so we appreciate your time tonight, and we're just excited to be here with you. I want to start tonight just by having the four of us introduce ourselves. Um, as you all have been doing, I'm Laura House with Our Hearts Are Home, and my husband Gary and I live in Virginia. And our son Nathan went to heaven in 2016 at the age of 25.
Who's next?
Yeah.
I'm Nancy Sullivan. Our precious Amberly Rose went home to be with the Lord in 2020 at the age of 24. My husband and I served with a missions organization called ethnos Canada. We lived in Thailand. That's actually where Amberly was born. And I also help Laura with a lot of the communication with Our Hearts Are Home.
My name is Melanie D. Simone, and my son Dominic ran ahead to heaven in 2014 at the age of 23. I write a daily blog, thelifeididn'tchoose.com, and I have a ministry, Heartache and Hope, and I have Facebook pages.
My name's Emily Matuza, and I live in Minnesota. And my son Joey went to heaven in the spring of 2019 at the age of 19. I work at my church with Stephen Ministry, and I'm also blessed to help Our Hearts Are Home out with a Tuesday night support group and also leading Grief Share. And yeah, they're both a blessing. And my hope for you all tonight is that something that you hear tonight will resonate with you and help you feel less overwhelmed in your anticipation of this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple people have mentioned, should we be able to see each other? And the answer is no, because this is on YouTube. So when we everything else we do is on Zoom, and we do see each other. But if you're trying to get on a camera, that won't work this way. So you'll just be seeing the four of us. So, well, we're very excited tonight to talk about a lot of ideas for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But before we do that, we want to do a couple other things first. All of us who have lost a child know that Thanksgiving and Christmas, well, every day's hard, right? But those days have another added layer of difficulty. And if you're in those first few years of your grief, then you are likely feeling that in a very, very heavy way. A year ago, we did a webinar called Navigating the Holidays. And I recommend that you go to our YouTube channel where you are here, but head to the YouTube channel later and view that webinar, because we go into a whole lot of detail about the realities of grief during the holidays. But we really felt that we needed to start tonight with kind of a mini version of that, because so many people that registered to be here tonight are within those first couple years. Mm-hmm. So I've asked Melanie if she could kind of give us a little bit of overview and then also just some suggestions for you. So looking forward to hearing what you have to say, Melanie.
Thank you. Forgive my cat. Sorry, y'all. Grief brain means that anything that I can do to help myself remember is a good thing. So what I'm going to share tonight is a list of P's as they pertain to surviving the holidays after child loss. The first one is pressure. There's no way around it. The holidays add extra pressure to grieving hearts, and it can come in the form of our own expectations or the expectations of others. Even walking through the grocery store can be overwhelming to a broken heart when all we want to do is crawl under the covers and wait until January comes. But we can't escape. So we have to figure out how to, one, limit and lower the expectations, our own and those of others, and two, meet whatever expectations we choose to embrace in a way that minimizes stress, makes room for sorrow, and honors our missing child as well as the family that we have here on earth. Here's some general principles that can help make it a little easier to do that. Be gentle with yourself. Accept that you will not be able to do all the things that you did before child loss. Be honest with others. No matter how wonderful it would be if others could truly understand what it's like to bury a child, it's just not how it is. So if you need something from someone, speak up. If you don't want to, or you can't summon the energy or the emotional reserve to go to something, say so. Don't let folks cross boundaries once you set up to protect your heart. Once you've figured out where you need to draw the line and you've communicated that clearly, then don't hold fast. Don't let someone cross that boundary. Be open to change. This will be the 11th set of holidays for me without Dominic. And every year I've entered the season with certain ideas about how they're going to go and what's going to be the best way to handle them and where I needed to set boundaries. And every year I've had to make adjustments. Remember that the holidays don't last forever. As hard as this season is, it is only a season. The sun rises and the days pass. If you spend time in bed with the covers over your head, January's still coming. If you get up and participate, whatever that looks like for you, January will roll around on schedule. These days are exactly like the rest. You take them one breath and one moment at a time, but you're going to survive. As a people-pleasing firstborn with a little bit of a control freak nature, giving myself permission to jettison traditions and expectations after Dominic ran ahead to heaven was hard. I knew I needed to, but it felt wrong. Then I realized that all the trappings I associated with Thanksgiving and Christmas were not essential to the primary ideas embodied in these holidays. Thanksgiving is about setting aside time to express gratitude to God for what He has done, what He is doing, and what He's going to do. I can still manage that. Christmas is about celebrating light coming into a dark world, and this broken heart can get behind that any day. So stripping down to the bare bones is a good place to start in deciding how to keep and what to toss, what to keep and what to toss. Some questions you might want to consider. What really speaks to your heart about the holiday? How can you continue to honor that and still make space for grief? And what can you absolutely positively not do this year? It might be different next year, but what about this year? Shake off the guilt, wash off the worry, and step past anybody else's expectations. There's no biblical imperative to celebrate the birth of Christ, none. And there's certainly no biblical imperative to dress it up with all the things we've added over the centuries. Furthermore, if you get right down to it, there's a lot of evidence that Jesus wasn't even born on December 25th. So if your heart can't stand it anymore, then just choose to sit it out. It's okay, I promise. I have to plan. The first thing I do when the calendar turns to fall is think ahead to the holidays. I've always been like this, but since Dominic ran ahead to heaven, it's become even more important. I put down all the non-negotiables, the birthdays, graduations if applicable, because a lot of schools have December graduations, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and any days that my family's work schedules impact plans or that they're traveling. I highly recommend speaking to family and friends now. Make plans now. When folks have plenty of time to make adjustments, they're a lot more likely to accommodate the needs of a grieving heart. Mm-hmm. Prepare. Do what you can in advance. Buy gifts, bake early, address and write cards. And that's if you choose to do those things. But don't try to cram it into the week before Christmas because you're already stressed. Christmas is going to bring up a lot of grief, extra grief feelings. And if you could have pulled it off before, you're probably not going to be able to pull it off now. And it's going to feel especially hurtful to yourself. It's going to be hard to be compassionate to yourself if you can't do it. So stretch it out, plan ahead. Put it on paper. I know we're all tied to our electronic devices, and those are a convenient backup. But when I plot commitments on a paper calendar, I can spot overcommitment much more easily. Another thing is I have to pace myself. I've had RA for 16 years, and I've learned over that time that there's no point in forcing myself beyond what I know I can do well, do safely, and do without paying for it the next day or maybe for a week. It's a good model for how to manage the stress, strain, and sorrow of child loss as well. I not only check for patterns of overcommitment for a week or a month, I pace myself throughout a day whenever possible. If I know I'm going to some kind of holiday thing in the evening, I screen calls and pick up only when necessary. The rest can wait. I make sure to have some alone time. Maybe I listen to praise music if I need a boost, or I listen to sad music if I need a good cry. That's a really good pro tip. I eat well and drink plenty of water. And then there's people. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the hardest aspects of the holidays we all deal with. It's not easy pre-child loss, and it's harder afterwards. Our family and friends just don't understand that everything is colored by the absence of our child. And here are some helpful guidelines as we navigate relationships. Understand that they do not understand. Don't wait to alert others you need to make changes. Decide how to communicate your message. Remember that written words don't convey tone and are easily misunderstood. Acknowledge their loss. Regardless of the relationship of other family members to your child, they've lost someone too. They may not feel your pain precisely, but they feel the pain of losing a grandson, a nephew, a cousin, a sibling, and they feel the pain of losing who you were before child loss. Use I statements. Don't accuse. Don't bring up every bad memory from Thanksgivings or Christmases past. That's a good tip for everybody. Start from today and say, I really feel like I need to do or not do these things this year. Be as honest as you can be. Feelings are not right or wrong. What we do with them may be wrong or hurtful, but it's okay to express them. Expect resistance. People naturally hate change. What is helpful for you may feel hurtful for them, but stand your ground while acknowledging their feelings. If you can, offer an alternative. And extend grace. Assume the best. Ask for clarification before you react. Allow time before responding to something that hurts your feelings. It can't be overstated. Holidays are extremely hard after loss. Every family gathering highlights the hole where my son should be, but isn't. There's no right way or wrong way to handle the holidays after child loss, but here's a few practical suggestions. We'll cover a lot more later as we talk over the questions. Skip it. Consider traveling for the holidays. Change how you do meals. Let others do the planning, cooking, communicating. It's perfectly all right to tell your family that you just can't be the nexus of the holiday gatherings this year. Don't feel guilty about it. Make new traditions. You don't have to do the I'm thankful for round table if it's too painful. Get a new Christmas tree and ornaments if you even want to put one up. Observe a Blue Christmas celebration if it's offered in your community. I'm doing one here. We'll gather to remember our children with music, candles, and a devotional message. Keep the same traditions. Some families crave the comfort of knowing that even though the world feels upside down, there are still some things they can control. And especially if they're surviving siblings or grandchildren, this might be really important for your family and should absolutely be something that you discuss with them. But feel free to ask for help. Be gentle with yourself. This is a hard road and a long one, and it's entirely possible, very probable, that each year will be slightly different as your family and your grief journey change over time. In the end, it's the promises of God and Christ that help me hold on at this time of year, just like any time of year. I can rest assured that no matter how difficult the season may be, the Lord my God is with me, even here, even now. He sees, he cares, he longs to comfort me. God is most honored when we are most honest with him and with ourselves. Truth in love, that's Jesus. And isn't that really why and who we're celebrating? And so those are some guiding principles that I've learned and applied over the years. And I apply them differently every year. It depends.
So good. Thank you, Melanie. We're going to put a link in the YouTube notes, and also we'll put a link in the follow-up email to people too, with a link to your website with this information again. So thank you so much. And again, I want to mention a lot of people have joined since we started. There's also a longer webinar, and Melanie and Emily were both there last year too, on navigating the holidays. But I think downloading what you just talked about will also be super helpful. Before we start getting into the ideas, practical ideas for Thanksgiving and Christmas, there are quite a few questions sent in. And so the four of us want to give you our thoughts regarding these questions. So I'm going to start with one. Someone sent in and says, how do I gracefully bow out of Thanksgiving with my immediate family? You touched on a little bit, Melanie, but this is a very specific question. So
one of the resources you're going to make available in a link that's also on my website is what the bereaved need from family and friends at holidays. And I wrote that in response to this very issue with my own family. And it's written in the first person. And if you go, and I won't take time to talk about it a lot, but if you go and read it, I think that it's actually something that you could include in a text message. It'd be kind of hard in a text message to be long, but in an email or in person in a letter to someone, if you don't feel like you can go personally and speak to them. One of the things about speaking to someone face to face is it requires an immediate response. And when we're challenging long-standing traditions in a family, like I said before, what's helpful for you may feel hurtful for them. And it's not that they want to hurt you. It's just that they feel like they have to make an immediate response. And sometimes it can be less than gracious. So my personal recommendation, whether you use what I wrote or not, would be to come up with something like that for yourself and to communicate that. This is one time I would highly recommend writing. Communicate it in writing to your family first and say, and I'd like to discuss it tomorrow at 10 or whatever, or when you have a moment or something like that.
That's good.
I think one other thing that's helpful is just maybe apologizing for not being able to be who you want to be right now because of where you're at in your grief journey, you know, and so that kind of puts it back on you and just allows them to reflect on where you're at and your journey. And so, you know, they don't, because sometimes they feel like they need to include you to help you, and they really feel like they are helping and that you'll be better off if you do what they're expecting, because they really feel like if, you know, you're forced into it, you'll be happy in the end. And sometimes that's not the case. We're just different and we're not prepared for it. And so you just have to explain, I'm sorry, but, you know, reassure them this is exactly where you need to be for your grief.
Yeah.
That's good, Emily. That's kind of the grief letter idea that Grief Share talks about, you know, emailing your family and friends with, here's where I am right now.
Yeah.
And to update you on where I am. And you're right, Melanie, that email format is so good instead of having to pick up the phone, especially when you have a whole bunch of people that you're wanting to kind of fill in where you are right now. You know, someone else wrote, how do you help others understand how hard the holidays still are for you, even though it's been years since your loved one's death? And, you know, this question touches on the fact that so many people think if we're 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or wherever we are, that we're just going to be back to like we were before, and that maybe we're not hurting so much the holidays. But all of us know that is not true. I know I quote H. Norman Wright multiple times each week because he talks about taking 8 to 10 years to, quote, stabilize after the loss of a child. In other words, this is not something that in just a few years we're going to just be participating like we always were before. So do you all have anything that you would like to say to this person? How do we help others understand how hard the holidays still are, even though it's been years since your loved one's death?
I think one thing, my husband, right from the start after Amberly passed, said, I feel like a part of me has been amputated, and I have to learn to do life differently. And that limb will never come back, whether it's in 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years. And you will continue to have to try to do life without it, right? That limb. And it's the same way with our children. Every moment of every day, we are still learning to do life without them here. And it's hard. And I think that's just such a good example of trying to navigate, trying to find your new normal, right? In the midst of trying to do life again with their absence, right? Yeah.
Someone else wrote, and you just answered this, but I want to say this out loud. And if you want to in the chat box, let me know where you are with this. All of us are telling you this, but I just want to read this for this mom. She says, 6 years later, I'm still processing this devastating part of my life. Am I alone feeling this way? And I imagine everyone would say, no, you're not alone at all. Yeah.
I'll be 6 years in March. And while it's different, it's as devastating. It's just different. You know, I might not be as emotionally broken on a regular, systemic basis, because it's my truth that I've had this long. And so I've accepted it. It's not the shock phase anymore, but you still have it. Like, it's still there. It's just different.
Well, Lord created those bonds that we have with our children as moms and dads, and those bonds are strong, and they always will be. I can't wait to see Nathan again. It's been 8.5 years, and I cannot wait to hear him laugh and give him a hug. But we're not mourning anymore. Those of us, the 4 of us here, we're not at the beginning there of grief. And we can tell you that if you're in the first couple years, and many of you are here tonight in those first couple years of grief, you're not going to always feel the grief that you feel now, because the Lord continues to hold you and carry you and strengthen you, and that will change. And you will have joy and purpose. Joy and grief can be there at the same time. They commingle. But I know there's so many new people here tonight that we were talking before we started, that we just want to reiterate that even though you may not feel that the Lord is there, He is. It's the grief that may be covering up that for you, but He's there holding you, and you will not always be in the place you are right now. So as hard as the holidays may be for you this year, that's going to change as the years go by. Let's see, a couple other questions. As his parents and grandparents to his boys, how can we best remember him at Christmas without making it a sad occasion for the children? So how can they make this, we probably should, well, let's go ahead and answer that one. We haven't talked about Christmas yet, but just any specific ideas when you've got, actually, we should wait on that, because we're going to be talking about that in a moment. Sorry, guys. Let's wait on that one, because we have so many practical ways that will answer that question. And if you have a question that you want to put in the chat box, you're welcome to do that as well. How to handle people around me who are afraid to have joy in their life after loss? That's an interesting question. How do I handle the people around me who are afraid to have joy? So this person obviously has found their joy again, and yet everyone around them has not. Any words you have for them?
And I wonder too, is it that person who wants to honor the one who's lost and And I know I struggled a little bit with that in regards to, is it wrong for me to feel joy?
Yes.
Mhm.
Right? Will that be dishonoring my daughter? And that's really, I think we go through that, but at the same time, just like you said, the Lord, he's so much greater than our grief and our sorrow. And as we lean heavily into him, we experience a joy that really we can hardly put into words. I never would have said I could experience this kind of joy alongside of my grief. And I know it's only because of Christ in me. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Mhm.
And I think on a practical note, sometimes we have to address the elephant in the room. So if it's a relationship in which you have enough there, you can say to them, I just want you to know that I have come to understand that joy and grief can coexist. And and I would love for you to experience the same thing, or something to that effect. And that's okay, because what I found is people don't pick up clues very well. I mean, I'll just be honest. And so as long as you're graceful and kind, and you use a lot of I statements, uh, a lot of times just bringing it out straight out makes a huge difference.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that kind of helps with the question I see that Lisa's asking in the chat box. She has 4 other kids, 4 grandchildren, elderly parents, husband, mother-in-law. How can I maneuver the holidays feeling that I have to do things as I've always done for everyone else? And what you just said kind of touched on that, Melanie. And earlier, you touched on that too. But I would say it again is, Lisa, figure out, what can you do? What do you want to do? What do you feel you're able to do? And let them know way ahead of time, hey, here's my plans. This is what I know that I can do this year.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's
Or,
my feeling.
and would it be wrong to ask, are there family, friends, I don't feel strong enough to do this alone. Could we do it together?
Yes.
You know, and
Mhm.
that might be helpful as well.
Absolutely. Here's the few things I know I can be in charge of or I want to do. And here's the other things we usually do. Does somebody else want to pick those up? That's good. That's good, Nancy.
And I was going to say, depending on their age, maybe incorporate them in, because my kids I had teens, and they were as uninterested in decorating as I was. So it was a skip it year for all of us. But, I misunderstood that originally and assumed that they would want me to do everything I could to make it just a traditional Christmas, and we needed to get everything up. And that wasn't the case at all. We were all deeply grieving, and we were all in a place where that absence would be that much more present, if I put the stockings up, that year. And so I gave it grace, and I was as realistic as I could be. And I was kind of grateful that I asked them, and together, we all were in the same place.
And, some people find a lot of comfort keeping their same tradition. And so if you do, then do.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people also don't want to do the same tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, after losing Nathan, we always open presents on Christmas morning. We're one of those families that it's one at a time, so it takes forever. It's so fun to see each person. That was our tradition. And our daughter said, we can't do that. Nathan's not here. I cannot do that. And I said, well, I feel the same way. So we didn't. We did the night before, something we'd never done before. And we actually kept that up for a few years. And now we're back to Christmas morning. And putting Nathan's stocking up and talking all about Nathan. It's again, it's not the same. There's not the mourning and grief now, 8.5 years down the road, that there was the beginning. So you can figure that out. Do you want to stick with the same traditions? Does that bring you comfort to do the exact same thing? It might. For a lot of people, it does. But if it doesn't, don't feel bad about doing something completely different. And Melanie mentioned that earlier too. I know parents who, instead of doing Thanksgiving at home, they just took the family and went to a cabin and did something else. They did something completely different on the holiday. And I know quite a few parents that did that with Christmas. They took their family on a trip to the beach at Christmas instead of being at home because they wanted to do something different. So somebody, I think Nicole put in here, give yourself a lot of grace. Give yourself grace, be realistic, and you have a little leeway here. It's only November 7th, so figure out, what you want to do.
And don't be pressured. That's something that I think we as women, especially women who embrace biblical womanhood and try to be the heart of our homes many times. But this is a moment and a season in our lives, especially early on, when that's really an unrealistic expectation and allowing yourself to be, and I shouldn't say allowing yourself but if other people pressure you in that way, it is really, really, really okay. And not only okay, but it's best for your mental health to say, I can't do certain things. Or I really liked your phrase that was, I'm not strong enough. And I think, who can argue with that?
Yeah. Well, let's just lead right into Thanksgiving, because Charlotte has a wonderful comment she put here, and this can kind of lead us into this conversation. She says, last year I spent Thanksgiving with extended family. I felt my family was afraid to say my son's name. I wanted to share how he loved Thanksgiving and his favorite Thanksgiving dish. So let's talk a little bit about what happens those first few years when you walk into that extended family. And Melanie, you called it the elephant in the room. What are some ideas that we can give parents here tonight on how to break that ice and things that we've done to say our child's name and make everyone feel comfortable? Because we found that when we did that, all of a sudden everyone else in the family was comfortable. They didn't want to bring Nathan up because they didn't want to, quote, hurt us. But we're sitting there, all we're thinking about is Nathan. And so what ideas can we give people?
Well, our daughter, she struggled a lot, but she dealt with her pain and her suffering through humor. So we just keep throwing her humor around. It's rarely a season that we get together with other immediate or extended family. It's always her humor comes up. Oh, remember when Amberly would say this? And it just has us all laughing. And so that's always been a great icebreaker for us. Yeah.
I think it was the first Thanksgiving actually at my sister-in-law's house. Charlotte, it was very similar. They were uncomfortable with talking about Joey, and I could just tell it was. And I don't know, you may not have the strength. This may be way too big of an ask of yourself, but for me, I wanted his name said, and so I just brought like a placemat and a candle, and I knew there was a spot where I could put an empty chair, and I had his picture, and I just put it there so that the discussion could start, so that the elephant in the room had an actual picture, and it kind of worked because, then they were like, okay, because who knows, they may have thought they were protecting me by not saying his name, and that kind of helped them have permission to talk about Joe, and there's some in there that were still uncomfortable, and that's just where they're at in their process, but at least it was an opening.
We brought Nathan up right away when we got there with family by saying things like, oh, Nathan, I wish Nathan was here. Remember how much he loves Thanksgiving. That was his favorite holiday. He was very tall and skinny. and he would basically fast the day before, so he'd have as much room as possible for Thanksgiving dinner. That's everybody in the family knew that was his favorite thing to do. And so we just brought him up when we were all sitting down and talking, when everybody could hear me. I just said, "Oh, wish Nathan was here this year. You guys remember how much he loves Thanksgiving," and told a story about him eating pie when he was a little kid. He ate an entire pumpkin pie once. We didn't know he was doing it. He was like 5. He was in the kitchen by himself. He didn't feel so great afterwards, but he had the whole pie. So, we just decided we're talking about him, because we knew that it was going to be uncomfortable for everyone, because they loved him too. And we knew that they didn't want to be hurtful. So I think my comment really would be, bring him up, and it's okay if it makes people uncomfortable. It's okay if somebody's uncomfortable. That's not a bad thing. They're going to get used to that. And the more we talked, we from the very beginning, we have talked freely. Just like we talk about our other children that are still here, we talked about Nathan right from the get-go. So if somebody's uncomfortable, we just decided that's on them. We're going to talk about them. And what happened is they felt comfortable. And so, they were able to also participate and talk. So I'm sorry you're experiencing that, but it happens so much because people don't know what to say. Just reading the chats here. Yeah, you say, Charlotte says, I always want to talk about him, but I think they wanted to protect my heart. And, that's something too. I've never done this, but you could even send an email ahead of time and just say, hey, everybody, I'm thinking about Thanksgiving and thinking about how much I'm going to miss, Nathan in my case. And I just want you to know that it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable to talk about him. Matter of fact, I want to talk about him. I mean, you could preemptively just say, they know what to expect, and they know it's fine to talk, and that it actually protects your heart, doesn't it, Charlotte, when they talk about him? That is what makes our heart.
I didn't do it in an email, but I did that with my family. And then, like y'all, in different ways, just modeled it repeatedly in front of them.
Yeah. And I was going to say, they also may not want to see you cry. Everyone's very uncomfortable with the public cry. And so they definitely are, thinking they're protecting you because you're going to be so apologetic if you end up having a tear, Whereas that whole situation can be flipped, and you can have that cry and they can see, the real face of grief, and they can experience it and they can love you through it. And that right there is a healing moment.
I love what Jody just wrote. She said, you should tell them, please say their name, even if tears come to your eyes. Those are happy tears and shows they haven't forgotten them.
Exactly.
That's the thing that all of us want, is that people remember how special and important our children are. Yeah. Well, let's jump into some other ideas specifically for Thanksgiving. I know all of us have lots of ideas. Does somebody want to go first?
Well, one of the things that I actually got this idea from another mom, and it works for any holiday or any kind of occasion when maybe people are gathering. And I know some people put a large candle on the table in memory of their child, and that's a great idea. But if sometimes you're either because of the way your family is or because of the setting, it doesn't work that way. One of the things that a mom told me about was, I'm sure y'all have seen these. This is one that's too small to hold a little candle, but I'll show you another one. These are those little like chairs that you get from that go into the little garden displays that people make in pots and so on and so forth. This is one that's large enough. You can get them at the dollar store. This is one that's large enough, and it actually holds one of the flameless candles, also from the dollar store. And it can be placed. It can be placed within an existing centerpiece, or you can put it next to your own seat, or you can put it next to a photograph in a frame, and that's one way to remember your children and your child in kind of a little bit understated way. It doesn't stop people from talking about them, doesn't stop you from talking about them. But someone was asking about, without making it the central focus, maybe, or making it too sad for children or grandchildren, is you can do that. And it's kind of, to me, it's a little bit understated. And so I've taken to, I have these chairs in the common spaces of my home. And when we have different gatherings or whatever, I usually put a light in it for Dominic, just he's just to represent him.
Yeah. I was thinking of bringing a favorite dish that Amberly liked, and yeah, she loved the molasses cookies. So that's always that shows up. And yeah, and then as they eat them, if they say, well, they're good, and you can just add, well, that was Amberly's favorite, So, yeah.
Our Thanksgiving, we don't put a candle on the table, but I want to show you all this. Is this just a glass candle with it has water in it. It's a floating candle. And it just says, this light shines as a symbol of life and love remembered in loving memory of Nathan David House. And so it's very unassuming because it's just on the buffet lit, so if somebody wanted to go over and see, oh, what's the candle, they would see that. But I don't light it all the time at all, but some days I just light it because I feel like it. And, but definitely on holidays and other times, but I've loved that. What other ideas for Thanksgiving?
Well, the movie, I like, if you had a family movie or game that you play, depending on where you're at, again, sometimes it's too fresh and that's very painful. But if that brings you comfort, and if it would be something that, others doing that with you would help you remember in a kind of a joyful way, then do it.
One thing we've done too is just remembering and just thanking the Lord for the memories that our Amberly gave us, some of those precious memories. And we've often done that at Thanksgiving. And it's amazing how many different things that sometimes you haven't known about, and they come up. And so that's always been a special time for us.
I know some people have told me that they've done an act of kindness in honor of their child on Thanksgiving, or also purchased a Thanksgiving meal for somebody who, needs that help, and that's in honor of their child. I want to show you one thing. We actually did this on a birthday, so I don't know. It depends on your family whether this is something they would do, but I would hope they would, because it's been so special to me. Is we took a ceramic plate and put Nathan's name in the middle of it. And then we just left it over on a table. So you could just leave it on a table, while you're getting dinner ready and all, and just tell everybody this is what this is for. And they just wrote a word that described him. So all the cousins and aunts and uncles, they wrote the word that, tenderhearted, kind, honest, entrepreneur, inspiring, all the things. Well, this sits in my kitchen on a little stand, beside where I cook every day, and has been really special. So just any ceramic plate, this was just out of my stash of plates, and you just get acrylic markers from Amazon, acrylic paint markers, and you put it in the oven on 200 for like 20 minutes. You'll have to Google to be sure how long, and it sets it so it won't rub off. But everyone in the family really enjoyed doing that. And at the same time, I had a wooden birdhouse. It was just plain old light colored wood. And we did the exact same thing. I just said, these are two things that would be so special to us to have. And so on the birdhouse, everybody put a word that described Nathan, and we hung that in the tree, actually in the cemetery. So Nathan's with Jesus, but that's where his stone is. And so we hung that there. So I don't know if your families would do something like that, but we didn't make a big deal about it. We just set it over in the corner. But at the end of the day, it was pretty special to see the words that they had written. It was super easy to do. And
that's a great idea.
Yeah. Love that idea.
Let's see what else. A few other people had told me some things. One was a memory table where they just had a little table over in the corner, and they ahead of time told their family what they were going to do. And if anybody had a memory or something that reminded them of the child, would they bring it and set it on the table? So they didn't, it wasn't in the front and center. It was just somewhere in the room. But that sounded like that could be something that might be interesting. Another idea was a Thanksgiving memory journal where, again, put it somewhere in the room and people could write a memory. I imagine that you all feel the way I do. When somebody tells me, when they write a memory or send a picture, that's like winning a lottery. If somebody sends a picture I haven't seen. But anytime someone writes something, that is just super special.
Mm-hmm.
Photo album, pull out photo albums.
Mm.
One mom said that she made an album of all the Thanksgivings through the years. Well, everyone enjoys looking through that, because it has all the family in it from, how many years ago. I thought that was a wonderful idea because everyone will enjoy, looking through that. Mm-hmm. And then some people participate in a Thanksgiving. There's a lot of like turkey trot walks or runs or something like that in honor of their child. Mm-hmm. This was one I'd never heard of, but I thought this was a great idea. Send thank you notes to people who played a part in your child's life or the caregivers for them. Oh, that's kind of a neat idea on Thanksgiving also. So let's see. Charlotte said we do say out loud in our prayer before dinner, those who've gone before us, like our parents and now your son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If anybody has any ideas too, there's a lot of people here tonight. Please give us your ideas. We're going to type all these up and send them in a follow-up email. So if you have other ideas, we would love to hear them. Anybody else have anything to add on Thanksgiving? Okay, well, Christmas, we can say ditto because everything for Christmas or Thanksgiving also applies to Christmas. But now let's jump into Christmas, which might be I'm not going to say it's more difficult, but it's certainly more in the front of everyone's mind. It seems like it lasts a lot longer. It doesn't seem like it's just one day. It just seems like Christmas goes on and on. So what other ideas can we give everyone for Christmas?
Well, there's a couple things we did the first year after Amberly's passing, and then the second year. Our family just tends to pull tickets. We don't emphasize a whole lot on gifts per se. So we just pull tickets. And so the first year, what we did is all of us had to choose a gift that would take one of the letters of her name, Amberly Rose. So it had to start with something from that. The second year, we all bought each other a gift of something that would remind us of Amberly. Mm-hmm. So that was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's really good.
I found I wanted to do something for someone that first Christmas, and Joey had a few close friends up at college, and they were, deeply broken by his passing. And so I would send them a gift card. I sort of felt like it was like getting a gift for Joey, but it was for, and I would send a letter, hope they were doing okay. And I tried to continue to do that for a few years, and even if I didn't hear from him, it helped because it was like, helping them in their grief, hopefully, because those young people, sometimes they don't get the opportunity their grief doesn't get honored as much like ours does.
Mm-hmm. I see Janet said, I haven't been decorating. I don't know if I feel like decorating this year. Sometimes I want to, and then other times I don't. And I just wanted to encourage you, Janet, because the first year I decorated post-loss was not the first year. It was about maybe the third year. And I did have a little tree that I just bought all new stuff for. I just didn't want to go in the attic. I didn't want to get out the boxes of decorations. I didn't want to be reminded of all that. And so I think it was about the third year, and I thought, oh, okay, I think I'm strong enough. I think I'm going to decorate. And I went up in the attic and I started pulling some things out, and I actually got some things down, got the tree up, started putting some things on. and it was too hard again.
Mm.
And so I laid it aside. I don't know, it was several days. And then I don't know if it was cathartic or if it broke through that mental and emotional barrier, but I was able to go get the things. And I still have some things that are just too tender for me to look at and hold and place on the tree. You know, it just, I don't know if any of y'all know Nicholas Wolterstorff's book, Lament for a Son, but there's a line in there that says something to the effect, why is it so hard for me to look at you when you were young?
Mm.
And to me, sometimes the Christmas ornaments feel that way. You know, it takes me back to that place before you think
Mhm.
anything could happen.
Mm.
You know, you're completely ignorant.
Mm.
And so I know some of you have lost very young children, and so you didn't enjoy that period of time that I did with mine, who was 23. But I think, so it's okay. Do what you can do. But try it. If you feel like you can, try a little bit. Maybe you can do as much as you can.
Well, and you too can modify. I had the same hard time because my kids each had ornaments. You know, I tried to, whether it was a homemade or whatever from school, I tried to keep them all, and I had them in different boxes. And so that made unpacking Christmas, like you say, you know, excruciating. But I took Joey's ornaments and I bought like a mini pre-lit tree, and I put all of them, and then any ornaments people gave me as gifts that were remembrance ornaments. And so that's the Joey tree. I have like a miniature version of it right here. But it sits out all year on top of a shelf. And like there's a couple of them here. And I love that. It's always lit. It's up there, and it's kind of one of those things. And people still sometimes will send a remembrance ornament, and it goes on my Joey tree, and it's kind of special.
Yeah, we did the first year after Amberly passed. She really loved animals. So Melanie, she would relate to your love for animals. And she loved llamas. So all of our family members that Christmas got a llama ornament for Christmas.
That's neat. That's neat.
Yeah. And then the ornaments that were hers, that her grandmother had given her all those years, I still have a box. And now every Christmas, one of my grandkids gets one of her ornaments.
It's neat.
So that they can remember Auntie Am, even though they don't really know who she is. But
I want to read a couple. There's some great ideas. Brenda says she's been thinking about having special remembrance ornaments made for her son's close friends. What a wonderful idea. Maybe for family, you know, for aunts and uncles, a special ornament that goes on their tree. That's a wonderful idea. And then Leanne says our daughter cut paper strips and had family members write a memory of her only brother that she lost. She made it into a paper chain that she hangs on her tree. We will add more to it this year. I'm going to start that. That is a beautiful idea. And you could even do that at Thanksgiving if you're with your family. And they could write a memory on that, and then you make a paper chain that you put on your Christmas tree. That's a great idea. Yeah. Oh, and then Charlotte also says that they decorated luminaries with their own memories written on them. Yeah. And Elizabeth, yeah, your son's birthday is 12/26. That's
so hard.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard. We know our kids are with Jesus. That's where we're going to be and want to be, you know, when it's time to be there. But the separation is so hard. It's just kind of no words to describe it. In those first couple years, we remember well. I was talking to a mom yesterday, and you know, we're 8.5 years down the road, as I said, so we're not mourning any longer. There are definitely still times of grief. There always will be until we're together again, but we're not in the same place where we were before. But I told her that one thing I'm kind of thankful for, and I'd like to know if you three ladies feel this way. I don't forget what it's like those first couple years. I don't think we'll ever forget what that's like. And I want to say that if you don't follow Melanie's blog yet, you need to, because Melanie, the Lord has given you a gift of being able to put words to those first few years of deep grief. And so your blogs are amazing for people to read, and that'll be in the follow-up and in the notes and all, but really encourage everyone to do that. And you have a whole lot of support around the holidays every day of the year, but there's a lot of really wonderful blog posts. So thank you. So what else? There's lots of other Christmas ideas. What else can we throw out there? I can't believe it's almost time to quit here. So let's throw them out fast.
Oh, I like, make cookies for caregivers or others who help them. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the whole ornament thing, there's scads of things you can do with that. You can board ornaments. I bought these like snowflake frames I got on clearance somewhere, and 5 or 6 of them actually, and cut out pictures of my kids and put them in there. And I have some of just Nathan. They're in little heart shapes. And I leave those out all year, kind of like you, Emily. I have a little place where I have those dangling all year long. So lots of ornaments. What about stockings? I couldn't put up Nathan's stocking for a long. I didn't put any stockings up for several years. Actually, it just hurt too much to put stockings up. It's just something I couldn't do. But now we do. So again, that might be something that is comforting to you. I think maybe Nicole mentioned that. Yeah, Nicole Kingsbury was saying that they in Amber stocking they put some gifts in there, but then they donate those gifts. So they don't. It's not empty while it's hanging there, but then they donate those to someone. What else?
One thing I find, I always made the cookies with my girls. And when my other daughter doesn't live near us, so I don't have my girls around anymore. So I just always make sure I invite someone. We work at a training center, so we have students here. So I just invite students that are from, some of them come from overseas and stuff. And so I just invite someone to come and bake cookies with me. And it really does not make it as painful. Yeah.
A lot of people buy a gift that they know their child would enjoy at that age and then give it away to someone. Some people adopt a family. Poinsettia church, that in memory of your child, a lot of churches you can purchase a poinsettia. Go ahead, Melanie.
I'm sorry. I know one mom does Christmas boxes for the Operation Christmas Child, does the same number as the year that her daughter would be if she were still on Earth. And so that gives her a goal. She, it's gotten to be a lot now because I think her daughter would be 30 something. But she encourages friends to help her in different ways, but she puts them together every year.
I'm not sure if we can swing this or not, but I'm going to try this. I stumbled across this idea online, actually, of finding something that your child wrote. So I'm thinking I can find a note that says "Love, Nathan," and I'm not sure how. I guess use tracing paper somehow, but they were talking about making little clay ornaments in their handwriting and giving those to family members. And I thought that would be the neatest idea: make little hearts, out of clay. And then it would be "Love Nathan" in his writing with a ribbon on it to give to family. And I might do that even at Thanksgiving for them to be able to put on their tree. So.
Yeah.
You can have that done professionally too. There's a lot of companies online that will take original handwriting and put it in some on different things.
That's neat.
Yeah. My sister, she actually took Amberly's picture and made an ornament for us to put on the tree every Christmas. So that's really special too.
That is.
I like it. You can gift an item of theirs to someone special. I like that idea. I have not done that, but that's a good idea.
I haven't done that either, but I think I will. I would like to do that if I can. I couldn't part with anything for a really long time, but now there are some. Maybe Nathan's ink pen, or maybe there's some things that I can part with now that would probably be incredibly meaningful to a cousin or an aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
Oh, Suzanne says each year I get many texts with pictures as they decorate their trees. Her daughter's friend made ornaments in her memory the first Christmas without her and gave them to family and friends.
Wow,
So as they're hanging that on their tree, they text you a picture. Wow,
wow.
that is
Yes.
really a neat idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to chat for one more minute here because people are putting all these great ideas in. So let's hang on for one more minute. If you have an idea to put in the chat, do it now. This is your moment. Thank you so much for all the ideas. I do want to say that Thanksgiving morning at 10 Eastern and Christmas morning at 10 Eastern, it may be right in the middle of your celebrations. I don't know. But if you wake up those days and you just really need 15 minutes of prayer, we do a Zoom at Our Hearts Are Home. Emily and Lisa started this last year, and it was just a beautiful time. It's literally 15 minutes. There's not chatting. We just get together, and it's kind of that shot in the arm, asking the Lord to just strengthen you and be with you on those 2 days. So we'll send that out in a note. But if anybody wants to join us, it's quick, but I think a really beautiful time to just be with others for that 15 minutes before we go about being with all those people and just seeking the Lord. Jody says, have a family picture taken while holding a picture of your child that's gone. Have you ladies ever done that? Have you ever had a family picture while you're holding a picture?
I've never seen them though. They're beautiful.
Yeah. I have not seen that either, but this is the first time this year I have thought about I would love to have one of those with all my kids, but I haven't done that either.
Yeah, we've done it a couple of times. We did a Christmas card, and we had Amberly's picture standing on the mantle, and it showed through.
Oh, that's neat.
That's
a neat idea.
Our son got married this summer, which was very difficult, with Amberly being missing. But in her memory, we put a bench with her pictures on it on the memorial plaque. So we all gathered as a family around the bench, and again, her picture, her face is there in the family. So yeah.
And I will say, what you reminded me of one more thing. When I write Christmas cards, one of my children is married now, but initially none of them were married, and I could not stand to write the Christmas cards without Dominic's name on them. And so I took a cue from whatever is the writing handbook that's out there for colleges, and brackets indicate a word that should be there but isn't there. And so I write Dominic's name in brackets. And so I put, and I put his name in brackets. And so he's still included in our Christmas cards.
Oh, yeah. I know someone else that always does their beloved. I think Lisa does that. They always say they're, my beloved and our beloved Joey.
Yes.
It's a great idea. And we should say too, if, you know how you get all those Christmas letters of everybody updating you on all the great stuff that happened in their family. That first year or more, I didn't read any of those because there was no way to open those and read those. So again, going back to what Melanie started with, give yourselves a lot of grace. And
they can be for future reference.
That's right.
When you're ready to open them.
Yeah. And if you're ready to write those again with your family, you can have a paragraph in there saying, and we continue to miss Nathan Moore every day. And, if any of you out there have a memory or picture, send it our way. Say something there. Okay. A couple other comments here. Hobby Lobby sells, quote, presents that are made out of wire and string with a bow on top. I hang my son's ornaments on it and then place it under our tree. Oh, that's neat.
That's really
and Trisha says, my son was a bass guitarist. We will donate guitar lessons to a local music store this Christmas for a child seeking lessons. I love that.
That's great. Yeah.
Great idea. Well, ladies, anything else you want to say before we end here?
Well, I would just like to encourage each of you that just like Laura has mentioned, it is hard, but I remember that was something someone said to me right from day one, is you will not always feel this way. That God in his grace does bring healing to our hearts. I always say I don't feel like the grief will ever leave, but he does make us stronger to carry it. And he will give you the strength for this coming season as well. And because he is so faithful, he promises never to leave us nor forsake us, and he will be with you.
Emily, could I ask you to close us in prayer?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Dear Lord Jesus, we just thank you for everyone here tonight, Lord. And we just thank you that we were able to have this and make the time for it. And we pray for all those who attended, that they will have found something comforting in what was said tonight, Lord. And we just pray that you would carry them through this season, Lord. As we all know, it's heavy, it hurts, and we truly need you right by our side to take that step. And Lord, we just ask that as we get through this, that we would just consistently feel your comfort and feel your presence, and that you would just be there, Lord. Thank you again for everyone here, and we pray for each and every one of them as they continue. In your name, amen.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for coming. And if you are just having a really difficult day, please reach out to us. In the follow-up, I'll have Melanie's blog. I'm going to have our Hearts Are Home link. We have a lot of things online, support groups, grief share, book studies, all kinds of things. You're not alone. There's a whole lot of us out here that understand what it feels like to head into these days. So be encouraged that the Lord has you. Like Nancy said, he's with you. So, well, I always have to try to remember how to get off of the actual webinar platform. So we will start disappearing one by one. But good night, everybody.
Good night.
For coming.
Good night.